going on, everyone? So we have a trade. Lonzo Ball was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Isaac Okoro. And that's it. Easy, clean, just swap. You get your player, I get my player. Everybody's happy. Chicago, there were reports, even at the draft. Lonzo in particular, there was reports earlier. At the draft, there were reports that they were shopping both Lonzo Ball and Kobe White. That those were the two guys that they wanted to move off of, at least one of them. But if the right trade for both, then they would do the right trade for both. Lonzo was going to be the cheapest option as far as, him going out. There were several teams that I thought he made a ton of sense for. Turn to the Lakers would have been nice. I think any team that could use just kind of that point of attack defense. Lonzo, the thing about Lonzo is he really evolved into that versatile combo guard pre-injury. Here's the thing. It's a big risk for the Cavs because if they get pre-injury Lonzo, and I'll go over his stats here in a moment, but like pre-injury Lonzo is going to make them tough from a defensive perspective to he was shooting over 40% from 3-point range on volume, right? His ability to make plays and feed guys, his ability to I think that's huge pickup potentially for the Cavs. But it's a big risk because the guy, he didn't play for 2 years and then he played, less than half the season last year. And Cleveland's big problem has been they just start falling apart, literally, right? And now you're adding a player that is known to fall apart. Now, granted, it's not like he's going to be your starting point guard or starting guard or anything like that. Although I do think Lonzo makes more sense if Lonzo is healthy, I think he makes more sense alongside Donovan Mitchell than Darius Garland. I think if you had a crystal ball and you knew, no pun intended, right? If you had a crystal ball and you knew that Lonzo was going to be healthy, that Lonzo was going to play, 65 games a season and be healthy come playoff time, however long you go, right? I would look to trade Darius Garland at that point because Lonzo gives you the point of attack defense. He gives you the size. He gives you the versatility. He gives you the playmaking. And he's really good off ball. He became really good off ball. It was one of the things that was very surprising in Chicago the Bulls. Yeah, Chicago with the Bulls, right? Like when his first stint was around. So we're just kind of looking at Lonzo. It's a low risk, high reward move for the Cavs, right? Without a doubt. But again, there is some risk there. If he ends up playing 65 games and gets back to being the Lonzo that we all know and love, then that was a huge steal. For Isaac Okoro, no assets, no picks, no nothing, just straight. But I get it, like Chicago needs more wing depth, right? Particularly at the 3. They are kind of flushed with guards. They have more than enough guards. They kind of could use some guys that could slot in and play some size. And he's a guy that legit 3-and-D guy, less risky. I actually really like Okoro. I think, yes, I understand he can be a little streaky at times, but I do think that he would be great on a team like Chicago, kind of give them another just versatile wing that can come off the bench. I've talked about him on other teams before, and I think he's a guy that could really, I think he has the potential to really solidify himself in a place like Chicago. He's also young. He's 24 years old, right? So it's not like he's some, 27, 28 years old or 28-year-old, right? Like he has plenty of room, growth, and upside that could really help a team like Chicago. He is looked at as that 3-and-D wing type guy. Talk about a guy, that's 6'6" in size, can essentially slot in, 2-3. Even, if you're running if you go the Oklahoma City Thunder route and you go with 4 guards, right? You could have them even at the 4 if you wanted to do that. But really, he's more of a 2-3. You look at what Okoro. Let's get into Okoro and then we'll touch on Lonzo Ball because I do have a few more things I want to say about Lonzo Ball. Isaac Okoro, I think, is straightforward, right? This is, again, gives Chicago a position of need that is young enough to kind of fit that age and gives them, somebody that could be a potential just quality rotation piece. I mean, he was a rotation guy last year. He played 55 games. He started in 22 of them. He averaged 19 minutes per game. And you're talking about on the best team in basketball during the regular season outside of OKC, right? 19.1 points per game. Field goals, 5 field goals per game, 46.4%. Shot 37% from three-point range on 2.7 attempts. He shot 58.6% from two-point range on 2.1 attempts. Had an EFG of 56.9%. Shot 71.7% from the free throw line. Rebounds, 2.4 rebounds, 1.5 assists. We'll round up to a full steal, half a block, and 6.1 points. So again, a guy that can just come in, definitely needs, a more expanded role, in my opinion. He can be a little streaky. He can be a little inconsistent at times. There's moments where you watch Okoro and you're like, that guy might become the ideal 3-and-D guard, right? Guard forward, right? And then you watch games where you're like, yeah, this guy's probably going to be out of the league in 2 years. It's either one or the other. It's crazy. But he's not going to be likely their day one starter or anything like that. He's going to be just a rotation guy off the bench that you're looking to play 15 to 20 minutes. So I think that's perfect in that role to just give them some depth and rotation and just give them a wing that can play multiple positions. You look at his per 36. Per 36 doesn't tell you everything, but it kind of gives you an idea of like what he'd be if he was a full-time starter. Around 12 points. 4.4 rebounds, that's 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, will be nice to round up, 1.5 steals, and then half a block is what he would be if he were, a full-time starter. Now, you move on to Lonzo. What does Lonzo bring? What does Lonzo do? Well, again, gives you that big, sizable guard. You talk about a guy that's 6'6", 6'7", point guard, I think he's like 6'9", 6'10" wingspan, right? He's got the size, the length, the versatility out there. Now, going into the stats, keep in mind, context matters. Context is important, right? He didn't play for 2 years and slowly was working his way back in. So keep that in mind for games played as well as kind of some of the shooting percentages. But I'll talk about that here in a moment. So 35 games played. Again, this was after missing for 2 years. 35 games played, 14 games started, 22.2 minutes per game. He got 7 field goal attempts per game. He shot 36.6% from the floor, which is not great. That is atrocious, right? But we're going to get into it, right? On 5.6 threes per game, right? He shot 34.4%. Now, that's not great from three. Right? It's not terrible, but it's not great from three. However, he was on an upward trajectory towards the back end of the season. He, 17 games in, was at 22% or something like that. I don't remember the exact percentage off the top of my head, but it was abysmal. It was terrible. It was uh-oh. And then he just starting to find his shot, finding his stride, putting in the work, right? And you started to see Lonzo kind of get more comfortable out there, play better. So the fact that he ended, in basically half the games at 34.4%, I thought was very impressive because, again, he was struggling early on offensively. The defense, which is where he's really going to thrive for a team in the Cleveland Cavaliers, his defense was there immediately. The guy was immediately just all over the basketball court, defending multiple positions. He didn't skip a beat on the defense side of things, which is understandable offensively. When you don't play for 2 years, right, you're just getting back in the swing of things. It's probably going to take him some time to really kind of get into a role. But again, 34.4%. 2-point range, he was 46% on 1.4 attempts, EFG of 50.4%. He shot just under 82% from the free throw line, which is good. 3.4 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 1.5 steals, half a block, and 8 points per game, or just under 8 points, 7.6. So again, that would be great. Even that, if, obviously you want to see his efficiency, particularly from the 3-point line, pick up a little bit, right? If you look right pre-injury, first stint with Chicago, 35 games played, 35 games started, 35 minutes played per game, 11 field goal attempts per game. Shot 42.3% from the field. He shot 42.3% from 3-point range on 7.4 attempts. He's 42% from 3-point range on 7.5 attempts. right? 2-point range, 56.7% on 42.3%. So just 42.3% across the board. Talk about consistency. He had an EFG of 56.7%. Free throw shooting was 75%. 5.4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, a block, and 13 points per game. That's what he was as a starter in Chicago when Chicago was looking really good, right? And it was like, oh man, there might be something here. And then Lonzo got hurt and it kind of just ruined everything because he was like their playmaker. He was like the guy that initiated, played off ball, his shooting, his defense. He was such an integral piece to that. If you get that Lonzo back, Cleveland's going to be tough. Tough. The problem is that, like, I just don't think you can start Lonzo. Like, I don't. On occasion, random night here and there, but as your full-time starter, I just don't think you can rely on him now. Now, maybe you kind of wean him into it slowly over the season, like slowly progress him into being that starter. So that way, maybe by like the trade deadline, you could look to trade Darius Garland. There's already talks about them trading Darius Garland. Something to keep in mind. But real quick, looking at his per 36, last year, again, it's just kind of gives you an idea. Per 36 doesn't tell the whole story, but kind of gives you an idea, okay, like what would he have looked like translated last year in a full-time starter, right? He would have been 12.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists. So he basically would have been what he was, just not on as good an efficiency, right? Like he's got to get the efficiency up. And it was a great trade for both sides, honestly. I think Chicago, because I know people are going to be like, oh, no picks, no nothing, wow, for Lonzo. Right? But you got to keep in mind, like, he's, again, a big risk. Right? Like, I think that this is a fair trade for both sides. Cleveland is willing to take the risk on Lonzo staying healthy with the upside of, like, he can have a real impact on this roster. I mean, a real impact on this roster. Gives us some depth, all of that, right? To a guy in Okoro that was, again, there are question marks on him with Cleveland. Where Chicago can be more patient with Okoro. They get a young wing that they can bring in and have him kind of, play multiple roles and take his time easing in. I think this is honestly a good win-win for both sides, genuinely. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Now subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.